Good evening.
Good evening.
How many of you have got an agenda? Yep, everyone's got an agenda. And everyone knows I'm the fourth speaker. That's good. So today, it's about the roles and responsibilities of an officer or a member of a club, Toastmasters club. And I'm actually going to talk to you about that. But in order to do that, it's about actually setting what the objectives are. What do you want to learn? What do you want to pick up from these presentations? So part of the objective is actually for our members and guests to actually know who the officers are, what roles are there. And then the second objective also is actually about, at a meeting, the different roles, what are they? So we've got two, right? We've got the club officers and what they do. And secondly, we've got during the meeting, the different roles that that members actually play. All right? So, objectives. Again, cast your mind to the beginning of this meeting. And then, as I go along, just follow me with my slides and see how it goes. So the first thing, the Toastmaster. Now this is a meeting where we have our meetings twice a month. Okay? So at this meeting we have someone called the Toastmasters. Can anybody tell me who the Toastmaster is for today?
Andrew.
Andrew. Thank you. So, if we know that Andrew is the Toastmaster, and we've been seeing what he's been doing, so I think it's pretty clear what Andrew's role is as Toastmaster. Andrew's role is to make sure that he actually ushers the meeting, make sure the meeting follows a certain pattern. Basically, he's the pilot of this meeting. And apart from that, the other thing also that Andrew does is to make sure that the meeting goes on time. He makes sure he looks at the agenda, make sure that people who have volunteered or who were supposed to do a speech actually do that speech. And that's the whole reason why we have the Toastmaster. So, what else does the Toastmaster do? The Toastmaster would actually, as I said, review the agenda. The other things that the Toastmaster will do is make sure that as we go along, even during the meeting and even during the break, if there's going to be any changes, he's aware of that. So that he doesn't come in front of the audience and start rubbing around looking for what to say or what not to say. So basically the Toastmaster has to be prepared. Then the next thing is the Topics Master. Now I could actually go in a lot of detail of what each role is, but time constraint will not allow me to do that. So I'm just going to touch on a few things on the different roles. The Topic Master. The Topic Master is a person who actually will do what we call the table topics. Well, at this particular meeting, we don't have a Topics Master because we're not doing table topics. But for the benefit of those who want to find out what is table topics, especially for our guests, the table topics is about impromptu speaking. And the Topics Master is a person who would actually come up front to the audience and ask a question. And that's basically more or less what the Topics Master would do. But the Topics Master is also to be prepared. They have to make sure that they've got the questions right. You don't want them to come up to the front of the stage and they start wondering, what question should I ask? You know, no, we don't want that. The Topic Master needs to make sure that they've got their questions right. So, as you can see, that's part and parcel of what the Topics Master will do. Apart from that, we have assigned meeting roles. We have speakers. What do speakers do? Obviously, come onto the stage and speak. But again, there are different types of speakers. We have prepared speeches. We have speakers who have prepared speeches, as we had just now. But also, we have speakers who come up. We have a guest speaker, but we also have impromptu speakers. People who will just call on, they don't know that they're going to call them, and they come up stage, and they will answer the questions that the Topics Masters actually asked. And that's actually the role of speakers. The timer, again, it's about timekeeping, making sure we keep to time. And there's a sequence of events, sequence of things that has to be done. There's the red, there's the green, amber, and red, which again is also making sure that they stick to time. So as a timer, you would hope that the timer also would actually keep to time and make sure that they get it right. But again, that role is really, really important. Evaluators and general evaluators. For the benefit of those who are actually here, we had our evaluators who actually read what the objectives of this prepared speeches were. And that's a key role. Because if you're evaluating someone, you need to know exactly what the speech is. And you need to know what the objectives are. Because you're going to evaluate them based on those objectives. So as an evaluator, the other thing that an evaluator would do, an evaluator would actually approach, before the meeting, the speaker, to find out what other things they want them to evaluate. Whether it's their stance, their body language, vocal variety, whatever it is. That's part and parcel of the role. And then during the speech, they will take their notes. And after that, they will then also make sure that they feed back to the speaker. Are you all with me?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah? Good. Then we have the general evaluator. The general evaluator is probably the person who would sometimes come from the club, but not necessarily from that club. They may be invited from another club. And what they will do is they will sit at the back of the club and see how the whole meeting is actually conducted. And they would make their notes and they will evaluate those who haven't been evaluated during that meeting. And that is a crucial role because, again, you're evaluating different roles. They're evaluating the Toastmaster, they're evaluating the timer. They're doing quite a lot to evaluate. And it takes a lot of skill for them to do that. And I feel in Toastmasters, that seems to be lacking generally, where we don't have general evaluators to come along and actually evaluate. And I think it's one thing that we could benefit a lot from. So general evaluators is actually the evaluating the general meeting. Again, this is just a brief overview of what they do. There's much more to what they do, but time constraint will not allow me to go into that. And then we have the grammarian and the R counter. Again, the grammarian is about making sure that the use of English is correct, grammar, and also the R counter is also to make sure that we don't use filler words. Thoughts, you know, those are kind of filler words that the grammarian would actually be looking, the R counter will be looking for. And again, this is a role because it involves the listening skills of the R counter. Normally, the R counter and the grammarian are actually combined. And that's just a brief overview of what the grammarian and R counter will do. So, these are the assigned roles during a meeting. So we now go to club officers. Club officers. And fortunately today, guess what we're doing today? Election. So we're electing new club officers. So what a timely time, what a timely moment to actually come up with these slides. So who are the club officers? You know, club officers. Who are they? What do they do? Sergeant at Arms. We had Ushma, the lovely lady who come up here and she actually opened up the meeting. Madam President, right in front of us here. Vice President Education, Madam Bouleur. Vice President Public Relations, Andrew. Oh, I wonder who that is. My humble self. And we have the Secretary, lovely Lydia. And our Treasurer, which obviously money is always important. Our lovely Samara out there. Now these are the official roles in Toastmaster of club officers. But we also have one more role, which is not necessarily an official role, but a lot of clubs now use. And that is actually the club officer as a VPM, Toastmasters, a mentor, the vice president mentorship. And that's what they do. But again, it's not an official. So, Sergeant at Arms. Sergeant at Arms' role is actually to open up the meeting, make sure the meeting starts on time, set up the whole meeting, and make sure everything is ready and prepared. Basically, more like the servant, really, the person who wants to. You know what I mean? But not necessarily servant in that means the word. Okay, sorry, sir. I didn't mean it that way. But again, you know what I mean? The job that people don't want to sort of do. But that's what the Sergeant at Arms does. And again, it's also about making sure the club property, things like our projector, and all the other stuff that we have is kept properly. President. Every club association needs a president because they are the leaders of the club. And their role is actually to make sure that the club, they represent the club outside to other stakeholders, other club members, and our president, Violet, is doing a wonderful job with that. Vice President Education. This role is really important because they're more like the vice president. If the president is not available, this officer is the person who will represent the club. If they're going to council meetings or any other meetings that needs to be, where the club needs to be represented. They also organize what we call the Easy Speak, which is a website where everything, as in booking your meetings, if you want to book a speech and all that kind of stuff, that's what our VPM will do. And it's a very demanding position, very demanding role, and involves a lot of coordination. Managing mentor program, as I said, we've got an officer's role that does that, so it's really not the role of the Vice President Education. But clubs where they don't have that, they would actually have someone do that separately. And then the membership, it's all about welcoming. It's all about welcoming members. Hold on, it's about welcoming members, making sure we get more membership in the club. Unfortunately, our club is actually a growing club, and we have more members come on board. But my role is actually to make sure that we retain members, and actually they were able to progress in their leadership program or the communication manual. And then the Vice President Public Relations, it's all about making sure that the club is well known on social media, other clubs, and making sure that Toastmasters is actually being broadcasted out there throughout the area and the region. The Secretary's role is actually to take notes during the meeting, keep all the records, the Constitution, and also make sure we have proper records and hand over to the new Secretary when their term is up. What it's also about is just making sure that we keep record of all our documents for the club. And then we go to the role of the Treasurer. The role of the Treasurer, again, is about accounts, it's about money, making sure everybody is paid, make sure members who come up here to actually deliver their speech actually pay members, and keep on top of the accounts, making sure we have enough surplus in the account, but at the same time making sure we remit the money to head office, to Toastmasters International, to make sure they get their money on time and actually get our accredited points. In summary, I'll let you have a quick read of what the summary is. But it is a lot in terms of what we do as officers. But it helps us with our leadership skills, it helps us with our communication skills, it helps us to build network. And it's always encouraging. I always encourage people to come out and actually do some of these roles. Because by doing these roles, you get to learn, And you actually get to speak in front of people, just like myself, you know, without actually having to have a prepared speech sometimes. And I'll just like to summarize with this quote. And again, I'll let you have a read of that. Thank you very much.